When you know that you are queer, but your favorite drink is beer, that's gayish. You can bottom without stopping, but you can't stand going shopping, that's gayish. Oh, gayish, you're probably gayish. Well, life's just too short for narrow stereotypes, so it's gayish. We're also gayish. It's Gayish with Mike and Kyle.
Hello, everyone in the podcast universe. This is Gayish,
the podcast that supports you craning your neck around to watch me fuck you from behind.
Oh, wow. That took a turn. At the neck joint.
At the neck joint.
I'm Mike Johnson.
Like all good bottoms, I'm Kyle Getz.
We're here to bridge the gap between sexuality and actuality. And today,
bleep, bloop, blorp, bloop.
we're going to talk about Star Trek. I'm so excited.
Yeah. Luckily for me, we have brought in a guest Trek expert. I was trying to
a Trek expert.
A Trek expert.
That's great.
To help you have a meaningful conversation instead of trying to explain to me why I should care. So Callie Wright will be on in mere minutes.
In mere minutes.
And if you listen at 1.5 speed, mere minutes.
Great. But first,
we're
going to put this at the top of the show now until it happens. So you'll be super annoyed maybe by it.
You're all so excited to hear about this because we're doing cool, fun, exciting things, and it's all because of people listening and support.
Rewind. Hey, everybody, we're going on a Pacific Northwest tour, and you are invited. We would love for you to please attend one of 3 exciting live shows happening 3 weekends in a row in celebration of our 5th anniversary as a podcast. First, Boise, Idaho, March 26th. It's lovely this time of year from 4 to 6 p.m. Mountain Time at the Treefort Music Festival. We will be podcasting our asses off for you. Mm-hmm. It's going to be amazing. Please come to that.
It's free.
It's free.
You don't need a ticket to the other music festival part. You can show up and sit down and listen.
If that's not good enough for you, maybe Portland, Oregon is good enough for you. Portland, Oregon is the very next weekend. It'll be April 3rd at Hop Capital Brewing.
It's lovely this time of year.
It's lovely this time of year.
That's what I'm going to say about any and every live show we ever do anywhere.
That is Sunday, April the 3rd at 1 p.m. Pacific time. And then, should we tell them the secret? I guess that's not a secret because it's on Instagram. Yeah. Hop Capital Brewing is making a gayish beer. We went and made beer with them.
Yeah, we poured things into other things. Some dude tried to explain to me things that I was like,
there was bubbling and churning.
I don't need this information, but great, thank you. Yes. It's mango kiwi pale ale.
Mango kiwi blonde.
Okay,
yep.
That was in the vicinity.
Which you can try at our live show on April 3rd in Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
At 1 p.m. Pacific time. And then we're ending our little tour with a stop for a live show in our hometown right here in our backyard of Seattle, Washington at the Hula Hula Karaoke Bar up in the neighborhood. Also free. It's going to be amazing balls.
It's on April 10th.
Sunday, April 10th at 2 p.m. Pacific time.
Lovely this time of year.
It is lovely this time of year.
It's coarse and rainy, but it's lovely. And that's the day after my birthday, so you have to come support me.
We're going to sing
personally, Kyle. Too. Oh, fuck. No, you're not. I'm leaving. The second you try to do that, I'm done. I leave and I go home.
Great.
My home is not too far
You're
from
walking
there.
Distance from there.
Yep.
Do me a favor, you motherfuckers. Go to the Facebook page, not the group, the page, and find
Facebook.com/Gayish podcast.
Thank you, Kyle.
Yeah.
What would I do without you?
No one knows what /Gayish podcast. Yeah.
And indicate that you are going or are interested in any or all of those that you're able to make it to. It will very much help us with planning because this is new for us doing events on our own without somebody else doing all the work. So
yeah.
It would very much help us out. Please, you dirty bitches, go do it.
Sure. And you can go to gayishpodcast.com/live to see all the details.
Yeah. Next. Feedback/corrections.
Yeah.
You want to talk about La Mama?
Yeah. I mentioned La Mama and had no idea. Someone posted on our Facebook group, thank you, that La Mama fucking transphobic. So Lil Mama talked about kids these days, they're all changing genders. That's precisely how she said it too. Verbatim quote. And you
sound just like her.
Me and Lil Mama. Hopefully Avril Lavigne has distanced herself from Lil Mama. I don't know that. I just made that up because it seems like something people might say.
Before or after she died and was replaced.
Maybe
transphobic Lil Mama is the old Avril Lavigne in disguise.
Wow. So many hoops that you'd have to... so transphobic, and then when she started getting flack for transphobic comments, she said that she's going to start a heterosexual rights organization because people get bullied all the time for just speaking their mind. Yeah. And she knows in her Instagram post defending herself, she's talked about how she knows people from the LGBT plus community.
Oh, the I have a friend defense.
I got a gay friend defense. Yep. So fuck her and come to his life.
Yeah. Her lip gloss is no longer popping.
It's stomping.
Thank you for the tip.
It's
and keeping us honest.
Yeah.
It's hard to know who we've canceled these days.
Well, I get so I won't go. Okay.
What?
I just get annoyed at the word canceled because anytime anyone's like, oh, like cancel culture, this thing. Dave Chappelle still has a show on Netflix. Like she's still going to be acting and singing. Like canceling is not like that doesn't actually happen. At least not to the things that people think it does.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
Yeah.
All right, Lil Mama.
Fuck off.
Okay.
Do you have anything else?
Not in this portion.
Okay.
No, I'm ready.
This portion of the broadcast.
I'm ready to move on to the news.
Move on to the news.
Here's the news.
Shut your mouth hole. It's time for your ear holes. News.
News the first. The Don't Say Gay or Trans bill in Florida has passed the Florida House, which we knew was going to happen, and we've already talked about it on the show. But just not to be outdone, Texas said, hold my beer.
Mm-hmm. Hold my queer kids.
More to the point, the asshole dickbat fuck-faced son of a bitch governor of Texas has said, hold my beer.
If you're going to hold a beer, hold the Gayish branded beer.
Okay. Governor Greg Abbott on Friday, whenever it was, last week, Tuesday, it doesn't matter, time has no meaning. He ordered the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services to begin investigating instances of children undergoing gender transition or gender affirming procedures as child abuse. He labeled all of those things as child abuse and ordered the CPS, basically the Texas version, the state version of CPS, to begin investigating that as child abuse. Quote, to protect Texas children, which you could do any fucking evil ass shit you want to as long as you say it's for the children, Kyle.
Yeah. Starting with to protect Texas children.
I'm raping this cat.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, well, but technically it's for the children.
Yeah, right.
Down home Houstonian dude says as he's halfway inside. Poor Tabby.
Under the directive, licensed professionals will be required to report, quote, children who may be subject to such abuse. Such procedures include reassignment surgeries that can cause sterilization, mastectomies, removals of otherwise healthy body parts, and administration of puberty-blocking drugs or supraphysiologic doses of testosterone or estrogen. And all licensed professionals in the state who directly interact with children, including teachers and doctors, could face criminal penalties for not reporting these procedures. And the general public apparently could also be subject to penalties for failing to make reports. So, read the most open, shitty, permissive way. Just if you know that your cousin had gender confirmation surgery, it would be your duty to report it to the state, or you're guilty of a crime. Just like their fucking abortion law. God damn it!
But this is different in that it is not a law, which is not trying to make anything sound great. It is different than they did not pass a law to do this. He issued a statement, an opinion to say to do this.
You're mostly right. You're sort of not right, though.
Oh, okay.
Because this Governor Abbott said this, made this proclamation just a few days after Texas Attorney General Paxton declared in a formal opinion that the procedures are already considered child abuse under existing state law.
So they're like, here's how we're interpreting the law that already exists.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, most, that's kind of how laws work, and that's why we need a legislative body. Most laws could probably be interpreted to say something shitty about trans or gay people.
And there are a lot of states for which like they write laws intentionally to be just like, don't do bad stuff. And then... Well, who gets to decide what bad stuff is?
Yeah.
Well, I do.
Yeah.
I'm the dude with the big stick.
Yeah.
Anyway, fucking Texas, Kyle.
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane. I have family members that vote Republican, and it's like your vote directly attacks the people in directly attacks my community, directly harms my community, is going to result in kids dying. Like very 1-to-1. This is not a indirect, this impression is a negative that blah, blah, blah. This is a 1-to-1. Like it's just going to kill kids. It's shitty. It's horrible. It's gross. I'm like disgusted to be from Texas when this shit happens.
I mean, Texas doesn't have a monopoly, Kyle.
Doesn't have a monopoly, unfortunately.
Can be disgusted on your behalf. Yeah. Keep your chins up, everybody. I think that this is like what we are seeing is the last dying gasp of a movement that knows that it is over.
Yeah.
By that, I mean straight people running the world.
Yeah, I hope so.
News the second.
Yeah.
As I'm sure you have heard, the Russian military has invaded the country of Ukraine, and that is not... Here's the gayish angle to all of that. So after this big, like, will he, won't he saga...
It's like the worst kind of rom-com.
The season finale arrived, and he invaded Ukraine, and this last Thursday. So Ukrainians, a lot of them are trying to flee the country. A lot of them are fighting back as well. With the president sort of leading the charge there, and a couple of things that I just wanted to say about that. There are a lot of LGBT people in Ukraine, especially former Russians, because Ukraine had become more progressive when it came to queer rights, and there is a great deal of fear in that community right now, justifiably so, that if Russians take over the Ukraine or install a puppet government, that their policies will then become more anti-LGBT the way that the rest of Russia is. But also, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton just today went on record as saying that she thinks part of the appeal of Putin to Republicans, because a lot of Republicans have been saying nice things about Putin, is, quote, because he's anti-gay and anti-freedom. And I think that's a really interesting theory that, like, oh, he thinks like me. Go, Vlad.
A lot of their values line up. Like, like that. Before all of this, that should have been a big insult that, like, you're on the side of Russia, like, but they're directly, like, Republicans are just openly being like, wait, I'm fine with Putin. Not roundabout, but just saying I'm fine with, or like, I like Putin, or yeah, he's good. Like, it's insane. It's insane.
Yep. Yeah. And
I didn't know Hillary Clinton made that kind of like direct connection though between those things.
Yeah. I mean, she was. Let's see. She was asked about it on Morning Joe, and she said that. Well, okay. So first of all, part of the reason that Republicans are now all like making out with Putin is because of fucking Trump, right? Like he has described Putin just in regards to the Ukraine as being, quote, a genius, savvy, smart. Like, Trump is directly praising him, and like
helps that Russians got him elected.
Yeah.
That's very useful. Like,
but hardcore Trump Republicans do not have any filter whatsoever. Like, whatever he says goes right into their brain and then out their mouth.
Yeah.
Anyway, she was asked about it, and she said, people who see Putin as a strong leader, aligned with their conservative values, quote, are naive in such a dangerous way. They somehow believe that because Putin presents himself as a strong leader and on certain values that are anti-gay and anti-freedom and democracy, that somehow that corresponds with the views of some members and some elements and views of the Republican Party. They could not be more mistaken. This is heartbreaking, but it's also dangerous, and I think it's time for what's left of the Republican Party that has any common sense, not just to say, okay, go help defend Ukraine against Putin, but to stand against those people in politics and government, in the media and elsewhere, in our own country, who are literally giving aid and comfort to an enemy of freedom and democracy.
It's very true. Like, we have talked about that with Trump, of people with a shitty, old school or skewed sense of what masculinity is, sees Trump and sees money, screwing over people,
pussy grabbing,
indiscriminate pussy grabbing, like all of that. No filter on what you say. Like, they see all that as a positive, and they see that as a healthy or a good masculinity. And Putin, same thing.
Yep, absolutely. Fucking dickbag asshole. I will. This is gonna hurt, Kyle.
Okay.
No tall Republicans. Not all Republicans, right? House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, who is otherwise a fucking prick-ass shitbag, said in a statement this week, quote, Vladimir Putin is a bad guy. He's an authoritarian. He yearns for an empire, and we need to do everything we can to stop it.
God, you know the bar has been reset when you're like, oh, cool, you're against Russia? Yay! that was a question, 10 years ago at all. Like,
yeah.
Man, we need to do our own version of resetting the bar our way.
Yeah.
We are going to forcibly make every kid trans. So that way, when they just let our trans kids exist, then we're like, fine.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the middle ground.
Yeah. There's a bunch of Republicans that are like, it's Black History Month. Slavery is bad.
And we're like, oh God, thank you. Yes, we know it. We all acknowledge that slavery's bad, right? Right, guys?
Oh God. Okay.
I thought you were going to talk about the grinders thing that people have been saying.
I don't know if it's true.
I don't either.
I tried to verify it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and we'll see.
Okay.
Like, I'll check. If it's true, I want to talk about it next week.
Oh, okay.
Or we can talk about it now. Fuck it.
Well, here's the just give the what might be happening, or people like rumors.
What might be happening is Vladimir Putin is livid at the fact that despite his public claims that there are no gay people in Russia, especially in the military, they are able to track Russian troop movements via Grindr. Which, I mean, we can track where the Republicans are meeting through Grindr.
That's true. When there's a Republican convention.
Yep.
You know where the bathrooms are. You can triangulate based on feet away. Yeah.
Tap, tap, tap.
Absolutely.
I hope it's true. God, I hope it's true. Make me so fucking happy. Oh, one last thing before I move on to News the Last. There is a... if you're interested in helping out LGBTIQ people who are in Ukraine and need help as a result of the Russian invasion, you can go to outrightinternational.org/Ukraine. It is a fundraising campaign that is geared for shelter and support in nearby countries to try to help LGBT Ukrainians get through this.
Did you say LGBTIQ?
LGBTIQ. That's their language.
I've never heard that organization of letters. I feel like I've heard most alphabets organization on that saying. Huh.
Yeah.
It makes us sound smart.
It's hashtag LGBTIQ.
Oh.
Whatever that means. Anyway, go give them money.
Cool.
News the last. And I'm sorry that it's been American politics heavy this week, kids, but there's just a lot going on.
That wasn't American politics. Well, I guess we talked a lot about Republicans. Okay.
As you may or may not have heard, there is a United States Supreme Court vacancy that Joseph Biden, our president, gets to nominate a replacement. And he has selected Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson to serve on the Supreme Court. She is currently serving on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit. And Biden says, quote, "She is one of our nation's brightest legal minds and will be an exceptional justice." And she's a 51-year-old Harvard College and Harvard Law School grad. And her confirmation now heads to the Senate. And according to The Advocate, she has never issued a controversial ruling as it pertains to LGBTQ plus issues. From the bench, she has a flawless record for queer issues.
Wow. That's got to be rare. That has to be a newer thing that we're finding. Like, I wonder if you could find any judge 20 years ago that would have had that.
Yeah, they did a relatively exhaustive look into her past, and the only thing that they could find was apparently she sat on the board of a school, a Christian private school, that said that it is anti-gay. So she sat on the board of a school whose website says they don't like gay people. Like, that's the worst they could find for her.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to let that one go.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it might come up according to the 19th, which is a news organization, the 19thnews.org. They think that she might face questions on her role with the school board after a confirmation hearing. But yeah, President Biden said that he would be selecting a black woman to sit on the Supreme Court, and by God, he fucking did.
And for the first time ever, Republicans cared about considering everyone equally.
Right, yeah.
Never before has anyone given a shit with Brett fucking Kavanaugh. Who cares who, and if we consider the right people, but when it's a black woman, we got to make sure everyone's treated equally.
Yep. That's the real racism, Kyle.
Yeah. The racism against me.
God. Anyway, I'm super excited for Justice Jackson. I hope her confirmation goes smoothly. Apparently, it's not expected to go smoothly, but Republicans don't have the votes to stop it. So fucking eat that shit.
Yeah.
Republicans.
Yeah.
They're the ones that changed the rules to make it a 50% process for confirmation of Supreme Court justices. So they are now being hoisted by their own petard. That's the news.
Suck my petard. I would like to thank the following people that I would nominate onto the Gayest Supreme Court of Justices, if that were a thing.
Great. Yeah, let's pack that court.
It's not, they'll do some kind of packing, that's for sure. Thank you to Patreon members. Localibi.
Yeah. Okay.
If that's how you pronounce it, I love it. If it's not, I hate it. Sean Lambert.
Okay.
Sibling to Adam.
Sure.
Better singer. Didn't know that. And Patricia Johnson.
Oh, I know that bitch.
Is that...
Yes, that's Ma Johnson. So what happened was she said while I was home from Murph's wedding, she said, I can't see your guys' stuff on Patreon anymore. So I look, it's because she's not a Patreon supporter. I don't know how she was getting it before. So I logged onto her phone and put my credit card down so she could get her.
Okay, I was going to say, we don't give her that shit. Like, I feel like when you've contributed to some level, you get just automatic Patreon membership. Okay.
Yeah, but we can't, Patreon won't let us comp it. Right?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
All right. No free rides, everybody. Pay your own way.
Yeah.
Thank you to everyone. Thank you to this batch of Patreon members, particularly the one that's on the show occasionally.
Yeah. Thanks to the one that gave birth to me.
If you 1 out of 3, we won't tell you who. If you want to join, get bonus content episodes. Other benefits include certain levels. You get video. You get shirt. You get to pick an episode at our highest level. Go to patreon.com/gayish podcast.
Great.
Do you want to talk?
Do I?
About Star Trek?
Yeah. So, okay, also, I forgot to mention this earlier. Okay. This might technically be a Gap Bridger's fault. So Dusty Sands said to us a million years ago when we ran into him in Yakima that Star Trek might be like what he would pick. So I'm blaming this on him.
But although I was the one that organized this, I found a guest that Callie Wright does their own podcast as well, and super into Star Trek, as hopefully we will hear soon. I don't know. Maybe I was just wanted you to owe me one, or I don't know why I was the one that organized and got this going. So I don't know. Props to me for caring, I guess.
Well, I texted him today to ask, can we call this episode Your Fault? And he said, no, I don't want Kyle to hate me.
Oh, sorry. Mike will text you, ask you, and then do the opposite, and it's your fault, and I hate you. So I don't know. You're trapped.
Yeah.
You better give us more money.
We're going to talk about Star Trek. So Star Trek is real queer, Kyle.
I don't know if I'll do this now or in the Patreon segment. I have I just looked for my favorite Twitter tweets.
Twitter tweets
that come from Twitter, not the other tweets, the Twitter ones about Star Trek. And I will say one of my favorite ones was Star Trek best gay moments. What is this? You just watched the whole show? That is by at VIISABIGGAY. That was Visa Big Gay. Anyway, thought that was very funny. Yeah.
Is it Seven's a Big Gay and it's about 7 of 9?
Oh, I don't know what the last part of, but it might be Seven's a Big Gay. Yeah. What is that?
7 of 9 is a Borg character that originated in Star Trek Voyager. She's now in Star Trek Picard, or at least was in season 1. And in the very last episode, spoiler alert, everybody, we discovered that no, it wasn't the last episode. It was the last few episodes. But anyway, she's apparently a lesbian, or at least into chicks.
Boy, we have to do a whole show where you do stuff like that to my ears. It was so quick within that explanation that I was bored.
Okay. Well,
wow.
all right.
I don't know what's happening. Episode canceled. See you later.
Don't be such a cunt, Kyle.
I can't. I just didn't care about anything. No, yes, that's why we're bringing you a friend to play with.
Mm-hmm. Great.
But you've watched all the Star Trek twice backwards?
I have now seen every single minute of Star Trek that exists. I think yes.
Including movies?
Including movies. I'm caught up on Discovery. I'm caught up on Lower Decks. I'm caught up on Prodigy. I rewatched all of Picard yesterday because season 2 starts next week. The day this episode drops, actually, it starts tonight, is the premiere. That's sort of why we coordinated it for this time.
Yeah. For all those wild with excitement about Picard.
Mm-hmm. Season 2 starts tonight.
Cool.
Only on Paramount Plus. Sponsored by
a mountain of content.
Happy Hole Toys. This is, I'm going to make it sad. Gayish.
Wow.
My dad and I don't have very much in common and have a really hard time finding ways to bond, and Star Trek has always been that. So I just having something that my dad and I both like to do together is at least half of my attraction to the franchise. Or at least how I got started on it.
Interesting.
Back in the original series days, before Next Generation was even on. So yeah, it's been a big part of my life and my identity for a really, really long time. And I'm not like like Dunning-Kruger. I would put myself I know enough to know that I don't know that much about Star Trek, but I could rattle off a bunch of shit that's also true and trivia-ish. So I don't want to call myself a super fan because they're diehard crazy asses out there. And
have you ever cosplayed as one? As a Star Trek?
No.
Have you ever had someone?
So that's not exactly true because I did dress up like an engineer and was on stage at Universal Studios Paramount.
As an engineer, like a generic engineer or a Star Trek engineer?
At the theme park in Southern California, they had a Star Trek experience thing where they would cast people, and I got cast as an engineer. Mom got cast as a Klingon. And they put us in costumes, and so that's not like cosplaying though. That's just like a role. But, yeah.
Would you ever have someone dress up as a Star Trek character as part of sexual foreplay?
Oh,
maybe we need Callie here to get everyone's perspective on this.
Would I be into that? I don't know. Not sure.
All right. Maybe by the end of this episode, you'll get the answer to the biggest question of this season of Gayish.
Yeah.
All right.
You don't watch. You've watched like 3 episodes that I made you watch, and
I've watched a handful of The Next Generation, and you have people over to watch the newer ones where they're, the ones where they're on that ship.
Yeah.
And
yeah, you saw an episode of Discovery just like 2 weeks ago.
Yes, and I think I've come over once or 2 other times, so I've seen like a few. I think I started to have a threesome during the Chris Pine movie, like the first movie that came out, and then got uncomfortable and left. So I didn't watch the movie or have an orgasm. So
Interesting.
Yeah.
That movie, the first time I saw it, I also got uncomfortable and left.
Was it threesome related or?
No.
Oh.
Unfortunately. No, it was J.J. Abrams related.
Wait, really?
Those, like, I love all Star Trek, and I would put those movies at, like, the bottom of my list of things I care about.
Suck it, J.J. Abrams. Yeah. Lost was only okay, too. Ha! Got him. Okay.
Lens flare.
Do you want to take a break?
Yeah, well, Who is this person?
Callie.
Callie. Great. We're going to talk to Callie.
Yeah, Callie is the host of Queersplaining, and big Star Trek fan, at least according to their Twitter. So we'll hear a little bit more and get the full deets.
Awesome. Sure. Let's take a break.
Let's take a break.
This is the part where Mike and Kyle take a break.
So are we back?
We're back.
We're back.
We are here with Callie Wright, the host of Queersplaining. Callie read on your Twitter that you are a super okay roller derby player.
I am indeed the okayest, in fact.
Wait, what's your roller derby name? They're my favorite things in the universe, I think. Next to Star Trek.
Ursa Mamher.
Ursa Mamher. I love it.
Is there anything gayer than roller derby? That feels very gay to me. I know we're about to talk about why Star Trek is super gay, but roller derby is pretty gay, right?
I mean, literally gay sex might be gayer than roller derby.
I question that, but
listen, yeah. I said May.
Yes. and your location that you say on Twitter is I would like to try to go first pronouncing this.
Oh my God, please do. Yeah, that's not it at all.
I looked it up and it's a Star Trek thing, right?
It is definitely a Star Trek thing. What? And I gotta say, I so admire that you just went for it, even though it was, we're friends here and I can give you honest feedback. Not the best.
My pronouncing that wrong is going to be the least bad thing I do today. So that's totally fine. Wait, how do you say it? And what is it?
Kotnoshdak.
Oh yeah, I should have gotten that.
Yeah, of course. Come on, get your life together.
Wait, what is that?
That's Kronos, right?
Kotnoshdak. That's how you say on Kronos in Klingon.
Klingon, yeah.
Okay.
The Klingon homeworld.
There are going to be so many questions where I decide if I do I want to ask you what Kronos is, like, do I care? Like, I'm going to have this this entire time. I guess in the Star Trek episode, I could ask, what is that?
They have 2 dicks.
Honestly,
maybe you want to care about that.
Oh, now I'm interested. Now I'm invested.
Yep. Yeah. And here's my thing. One of my favorite things in the world is shepherding people into the Star Trek fandom.
Okay.
And so my whole thing when I'm getting to know someone who is like, oh, like Star Trek seems super interesting to me, but I've never really watched it. And it's like, cool, I'm going to ask you a bunch of really weird questions to get to know you so I can curate your Star Trek experience. It's one of my favorite things in the world to do.
Oh,
yes.
Wow. Yeah. What are how do you guide people? What do you need to know to guide people to the right Star Trek vehicle.
I very much want to hear you dial Kyle into Star Trek. So this is going to be great.
Yeah, I mean, it depends a lot on someone's personality and what other like what sorts of things are you into media wise, like TV shows, comic books, podcasts, any of that sort of stuff. We're just doing this live now. This is great. I'm stoked.
Yeah, it's funny because it's like once someone asks you what do you like, then you're like, what do I don't know
Bob's
what I
Burgers
like.
and Grey's Anatomy.
I watch a lot of Bob's Burgers. I just finished watching Search Party and loved that show. I think one of the best gay podcasts out there is Gay Future. What other things do I?
Well, here's the thing: if you're a Bob's Burgers fan, I can predict that you would like Lower Decks.
Okay,
which is the animated cartoon Star Trek. That, to be honest, I was surprised to find a lot of people who have never seen Star Trek before love Lower Decks, because a lot of the humor in Lower Decks depends on like Easter egg, sort of like insider Star Trek knowledge. But my wife, very casual Star Trek fan, like she's watched it with me sometimes. She likes it, but not as into it as I am. And she got maybe a third of the like in jokes and still thought it was fantastic. And I've talked to like 4 or 5 people now that said that that Lower Decks was actually their entry into the Star Trek fandom, that they were just like, oh, you know, like I saw a preview and I thought it looked really funny, so I figured I'd give it a shot, and now I'm interested in all of the other series. So just that little tidbit tells me maybe give Lower Decks a shot.
Okay. Other things you need to know about me, just for you to know me, is I'm very popular. I think everyone really loves me.
That's great.
I'm the most handsomest. What else? I'm fun at parties. No, none of that's true.
Okay, you give off those vibes, so it's not a hard thing to believe.
Best guest ever. Let's talk about me instead of Star Trek. No. Okay, let's back up a little bit. And what is it about Star Trek? Why are you such a fan of Star Trek?
Oh gosh, this is a very deep question.
Okay,
and it initially it was just very much like, I'm a nerdy kid. There are aliens, there are spaceships, and I'm just interested in technology and all of that sort of stuff. It was very like superficial. I'm a nerdy kid, sci-fi stuff. But the more I started to watch it, the more I started to get into like, oh, well, there's like some serious stuff happening here, and this is like right around the time in my life where I start to kind of figure out that I'm queer and trans, but very much before I had any of the vocabulary to describe those things.
Yeah.
But I definitely got the sense that, you know, in the world that I lived in and the social circles that I lived in, there were parts of myself that I could never share with anyone. Right. Anything that took me outside of stereotypical boy territory was not an okay thing to express to anyone. Right. But in Star Trek, I saw a world where it was like, you know what, like if I lived in that world, it probably wouldn't matter. People would probably be cool with that. Right.
Yep.
And so a really big turning point for me was the episode The Outcast, which meant to be a gay allegory, and they just somehow stumbled into a trans allegory without meaning to. And like the quick synopsis is like the Enterprise runs into this race called the Janai that are androgynous. They don't have gender. They don't have sex. Right. And not only do they not have these things, the idea of sex and gender is like very backwards and taboo in their culture, which like #gender goals for me. Anyway. I wasn't there at the time, but that's where I am now. And so it turns out that there's like subcultures of people that do have gender and do have sex, and they have relationships with each other, and these people get forced into this like weird alien 24th century version of conversion therapy, right? And I'm watching all of this with only the vaguest idea of who I actually am, right? Like I don't know that I'm I know that I'm trans on some level, but I don't know the word for it. I don't know that that's like an experience people in the world have, because mind you, at this point, when I see this episode, I'm maybe 10, 11, 12 years old, you know? And I just kind of had the vaguest sense that like, oh, that person is different. I think maybe in the way that I'm different. And not only is everyone on the Enterprise cool with that, like Commander Riker is willing to like risk his career and risk his life to save this person who's being treated badly because of the way they're different. And it became very valuable to me in that way, in sort of giving me like an aspirational world to sort of live in my imagination, where like all the ways that I'm different, like that's all okay to be. And I guess the other big dimension to it is that I grew up without a dad in my life. My dad ran off as soon as he found out my mom was pregnant. And my stepdad, I don't think he's a terrible person. We're just very different. We never got along. And so, you know, I'm grateful to him for like working and putting food on the table, but I never, ever saw him as a father at all. He was just like the guy that took me to football practice and made overdone steak on the grill sometimes. And so Captain Picard kind of became a surrogate father for me in that way. And then I think Captain Sisko kind of usurped that when I got into Deep Space Nine.
Uh-huh.
Well, one thing I did look at and saw the Outcast mentioned, and something that happened at the end. I read that Soren, the character you're talking about, had to undergo treatment to cure her of her feelings of femininity. That, like you mentioned, like the conversion therapy, she had to face this kind of unfortunate thing that a lot of queer characters have to face, which is the shitty thing, like having to undergo and just be put back to how people think you should be.
I would add a layer to that. There's a scene, not quite the end, but towards the end where she gives this speech in front of a bunch of people about "I am female" is the line that she says, and it's really it's deeply moving because she's coming out to this agender society as no, gender exists for some people. I'm one of them, and I am female. And then they come down hard on that, right? And she gets pushed into this conversion therapy.
And it makes me think a lot about how, like, when people are just really committed to being queerphobic or transphobic, it just doesn't seem to matter, like, how well you express the like foundational humanity of yourself in who you are, or the way that you love other people. And it makes me so mad sometimes when people are like, you know, people are homophobic and you just have to like love them out of being hateful. Like that's a thing you can realistically do.
Right.
And like, that's not to say that's never happened, right? Obviously, you know, there are stories of all kinds like that. But, you know, I just think about all the times that I've tried to have those conversations with people where I really just like put it all out there, right? And I share like my pain and my trauma, everything that I've been through, and how much my life improved when I came out and went on hormones and had bottom surgery and all that sort of stuff. And I'm like, you understand, like I was on the verge of dying, literally dying. Like if I was not able to do this, there's a really, really good chance I would be dead right now. But now I am a mostly happy, fully realized person that knows myself very well and has a community of amazing people. And I get to do all this cool stuff and lead this cool life. And you're telling me that somehow, like, I would be better off if I was not allowed to be this thing, if I was not allowed to marry my wife, if I was not allowed to have bottom surgery, if I was not allowed to access hormone treatments or build community with other queer and trans people. So you're literally telling me that I'd be better off if I were dead, because then, like, you know, at least God wouldn't be pissed about who I am or whatever. And I've just, so many times I've had that conversation with people, and it just, they don't budge on it. Right. They try to find some way that that's not a morally abhorrent thing. And that's what I always think about when I watch that episode. And in fact, I still get emotional when I watch that episode. I've seen it dozens of times at this point in my life.
Yeah.
You know, specifically for that reason. Like when I'm doing a casual next gen rewatch, I usually skip that episode for that reason, because it's just like, it still gets me.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask about kind of that outcome for that character and being exposed to, after all of this, after, you know, that speech to people getting kind of a shitty outcome. how do you feel about that? Initially I was thinking like, oh, that feels like it could be bad. Like, oh, like you may face rejection, but you're talking about that feeling actually a little bit like kind of representative of your personal experience. So I'm
kind of two minds about it, right? Because it is very realistic. Fucking in the real world, sometimes the bad guys win.
Yeah.
Very often the people who hate us and want us to go away win, and they gain power, and their propaganda is successful. And I think it's really, really important that we not shy away from that fact, because if we just pretend like that's not a thing and we continually tell ourselves like love conquers hate every time, like that's just not fucking real life. But also, I think the sort of knock-on harm of that is the idea that there is ever a world in which something approaching conversion therapy actually works and like actually changes the way someone feels about themselves and the way they relate to other people. Because, you know, I'm always loath to tell people their own personal experiences are wrong, but I mean, there's just no good reason to think that if someone is gay, you can go through some kind of therapy and all of a sudden become not gay. Right. And so many people that say that that's their life experience, a couple of years later, they find out, you find like, no, yeah, sorry, I was lying to myself the whole fucking time.
Yeah. Ran the center for conversion therapy and was like fucking dudes all over the place.
Right.
Like,
yeah, exactly. And so, I worry a little bit about that. But also like, in an alien world 400 years from now, who knows what kind of fucked up things it can do to your brain. And that's scary.
Wow.
I totally agree with you and didn't really think about that angle of it. There is a certain amount of like, take a step back and just look at production value. When you're looking at episodic television that is going to be in syndication, you have to move the pieces back to the default setting, like where the board starts. So the arcs are actively discouraged, especially in older TV. So Commander Riker is in love with this woman. Well, she's not going to stick around for more episodes. Like their relationship is not going to turn out great because he needs to be single again for the next episode. And so how do you then, have a happy ending for that character that doesn't involve her being with Commander Riker?
Right.
Have the conversion therapy work. That's like one way to do it. So that's what they do. And there's other examples of that too. Like I think about like when Dr. Crusher falls in love with Odon, the Trill.
Oh yeah.
and then at the end he ends up in a female presenting body, and then now she wants to continue the relationship with Dr. Crusher, and Dr. Crusher has to reject her and says ultimately that it's not about the fact that she's a woman now, but that the change is too much for her, I think is how she postures it. But
boy, is that relevant to the trans experience?
Yeah. But again, Odon needs to go away because Dr. Crusher needs to be back to default setting for the next episode. Yeah. Or I'm reminded also of like when Lwaxana falls in love with Timothy, the dude that is from that planet that kills everybody when they turn 60 or whatever. And same kind of thing. Like they could have been together. He could have left his people and gone and been with Lwaxana, but now there's this other character floating around, and instead he goes through the resolution and ends up dying.
Right. And who is Lwaxana if she's not like thirsting after a random man when she's in an episode? Like that's just who she is.
Yeah. Her and Odo was just flat creepy. But anyway, go ahead.
No, honestly, okay, this is a tangent from the point, but I loved Lwaxana in DS9.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like, I revert to a liquid state every 16 hours. And she's like, that's okay. I can swim. Yeah. All right. Okay. All right, honey.
It's kind of romantic.
Right? See? Thank you.
I don't know any of the details, so you might be like, and then like they killed each other. I don't know. I don't know anything that happened about it.
Just know that you're correct. It's fine.
Oh, yes. I love being accidentally right. Okay, it's funny. I looked up shit to ask y'all about, and then I figured, I would say things. I would kind of piece out in my mind while like whatever happened out here because I'm not going to remember. But like, so for some of these, I have like bullets and details, and then I just have one that says Trill. Mike has told me enough about Trill that I thought I could just say trill and kickback.
Yes.
And
Yes,
you already
you can.
kind of had that reaction of like relevant to the trans experience. So I'm curious to hear more from you
Extraordinarily.
about trill.
Yes.
Not a piccolo noise.
Yeah. So for anyone listening not familiar, the TLDR version is that the Trill are a species where a certain number of them carry these things called symbionts that carry the memories of past lives, right? So like if I have a symbiont, it has all of my memories. And then when I die, the symbiont can get passed to someone else and they have all of my memories plus all the memories from the past hosts. And
God, I'd be so sorry whoever got mine. I'm so sorry for what I did with this life. So sorry you have to keep it going.
Yeah.
actually, my thought was that sometimes I feel like my luck is so bad that I would get selected for joining, but I would be the first one. So I'd get a symbiont. It would be super badass to have a symbiont, but I would get none of the benefits of having memories of past lives.
There's a plot line about that, by the way. In Deep Space Nine, Jadzia's symbiont is put into a murderer. And
Yes.
now then she has to live with that the rest of her life because it gets put back. There's magic that happens. But anyway,
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, so the idea being that, like, you know, you have the memories and life experiences of all of these other people before you, of all kinds of different peoples and genders and walks of life and occupations and sort of life dispositions and stuff. And so there is something to be said there about the trans experience in that, like, you know, how does that make you feel about your gender when you are not only different, like in a different body, but also kind of in a different mind, right? And like, what does that change about you when you have all of these memories and experiences of past lives sort of integrated into your being? You know, does that make you an entirely new person? Is that like you plus something? And there's a few episodes that explore that really, really well. And it's another thing that's sort of an interesting commentary on the way that like Star Trek has both been very successful and sometimes failed horribly in representation, in that like a lot of times the characters that they use to do commentary on aspects of humanity that are different are almost always aliens, right? And so if there's like gender fuckery going on, it can't be in a human because humans don't do that, right?
Yeah.
Which is like, that is a way to get it past the suits in the mid to late 90s. But that also leaves a lot of us feeling like, oh, okay, humans don't do that. So does that just mean that I'm not one, I guess, because my experience is so different?
Well, I was gonna argue with you and point out that Adira in Star Trek Discovery is human, but they are also a Trill. They have a symbiont. So like, even you're if that counts as being alien, then your theory still holds, right?
Well, but also I would point out that Star Trek we're 56 years into Star Trek, and Adira was introduced a year ago,
Right?
a year and a half ago.
For sure.
So yeah. But I mean, also, you know, think about Data, right? And I have so many autistic friends that see themselves in Data, right? And it's like I know plenty of human beings that are just as confused by the majority of other human beings as Data was, right? But you can't be a human and be that different, right? There has to be something that explains that difference about you. So, oh, you're an android with no emotions. Oh, that means you don't get social stuff. And then, you know, a bunch of my autistic friends are like, oh yeah, Data's obviously autistic, like, because that's exactly how I experience the world, right? But then that also, again, sort of has the knock-on effect of being like, because there's like really harmful stereotypes about autistic people, like they're robots or whatever, right? And so there's sort of a duality there of like, it's really cool to see yourself, but it's also sometimes doesn't feel the best the way that it works out.
Yeah.
Did we talk about the Trill enough, Kyle?
I don't. Oh, I have no. I can't judge that, and I have no need for answering that. I put it out there, and you all said stuff, so that's what I got. What I needed from that.
Trill also have spots, and I love spots. And if I ever have fuck you money and know that I'm never going to need traditional employment again, I am absolutely getting Trill spots tattooed from my forehead all the way down to my feet.
Excellent.
Just going to be a
Trill
thing.
spots. What are
They have this like tiny leopard pattern looking spots that go all the way down their body.
Oh.
And
that's
like their neck.
Right, because again, early, mid, late 90s, right? The makeup budgets and this is, a weekly sci-fi show that's it's not, they don't have the budget. They didn't have the budgets like they have today.
Yeah.
And so some of the makeup has to be a little bit more easy to do.
They had the budget for a black pencil,
right, exactly,
like eyeliner,
exactly. And they also, this is an interesting thing they talk about in the fandom too, because the Trill that we were talking about, Odan, that Dr. Crusher falls in love with, had one of those very much like alien forehead of the week kind of things going on. It was just like, oh, this person's forehead is different than the average human's. I bet they're an alien. And they tried that makeup on Terry Farrell during the test, test shooting of Deep Space Nine, and she didn't look great with it. And so they were like, cool, we're just going to make the Trill look different. And that's how they got the spots.
Although, have you heard the theories that explains the in-canon differences between Odan and the other Trill that we've seen? Like Odan's symbiont took over Riker's body, controlled his body. This was not like a...
That's true.
It was far more of a parasitic kind of a relationship instead of a symbiotic one. And the consciousness transfer fuckery wasn't present. Anyway, I've heard the theory that the reason Odan looked different is because he's a different kind of Trill. And I very much subscribe to that, and it makes me like Jadzia more.
Well, and also as a species that is in some ways so foundational to Star Trek, we really don't know a ton about their society, right?
Yeah.
We know that most Trill want to be joined and can't. We know that more Trill can be joined than is generally known because they don't want the symbionts to become commodities, and there aren't enough symbionts to go around. We know their planet is bluish purplish, and we don't really know much else about how their society works. And so, I think there's some interesting exploration to be done there.
Glowy cave pools. Don't forget the glowy cave pools.
Yes, we cannot forget the glowy cave pools with the weird people that tend them.
The Guardians.
I already heard y'all mention Adira. I want to see if in Discovery you can tell me the 5 explicitly queer characters that are part of the main cast.
Sure.
We got Adira.
Adira and Gray.
Gray.
And Hugh Culber. And Paul Stamets.
Yep.
And Jet Reno.
Yep. Those are all the ones that were in this article. So if you have more,
okay.
you're the more up-to-date article then.
Yeah. Well, you could argue, I don't know if Jet Reno counts as part of the main cast because she's only been in one episode this season so far. I hope we'll see her in the next one. But yeah, Star Trek Discovery.
Tig Notaro?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Apparently Tig Notaro is just super busy. They keep asking her if she'll be on more episodes.
Wait, Busy Phillips is in this? What? You said Tig is busy. Okay, never mind.
I didn't get it either.
It was hilarious. I don't know.
Great.
It wasn't. It's fine.
The one time he made the reference that neither of us get. This is just kind of puts us on the other side of the equation. Yeah.
I'm watching Cougar Town right now, so I got Busy Phillips on the brain.
It's Jet Reno is basically Tig Notaro in Star Trek. She's delightful. And my understanding is that she was limited in this season because I think her and her spouse or partner recently had a kid or something like that. And they were just super, super worried about COVID stuff. And so we're just I'm staying home for most of this and I'll give you a little bit of my time. Which makes me sad, but I get it. You can't be mad about it. I love her character. And I love Tig Notaro so much. But yeah, Star Trek Discovery is queer as fuck, and I love it so much.
How do both of y'all feel about especially knowing the history and the previous seasons and TV shows and everything? How do y'all feel about the queer representation in the modern day?
There's so much toxic cis het white dude energy in Star Trek fandom. And I drink their tears online. They are so mad. They're so mad, and they just can't.
Mad,
and it makes me so happy. They're large swaths of time in Discovery when the only cis straight white dude is an alien, right? And everybody else is something, add an adjective, right? And
whereas
it's
most
really,
of us who are part of any marginalized group are like, welcome to how we've felt the last 50 fucking years. Like,
Yep.
Yeah.
Season 3 and season 4 have been just absolutely fucking fantastic. And
So I will say I was initially worried because, they came out of the gate making Discovery just queer as fuck. And what I was worried about at first is like, oh, are they just going to make Discovery the queer one and we're not going to get it anywhere else? Right.
Yeah,
I was worried about that. But I think at the time I didn't realize how many queer people behind the scenes were involved in stuff. And then especially when Michelle Paradise took over as showrunner.
I like queer runner. She's the queer runner.
Talk
for
about a
Star Trek.
Freudian slip. Holy shit. When Michelle Paradise took over as showrunner, I'm fairly sure that she's queer. So, that's all fine. But yeah, I mean, we got at other places too. We got Raffi and Seven and Picard, which I'm really fucking stoked about. Mariner and Jennifer and Lower Decks. Oh God, spoiler alert. Sorry. Should have spoiler alerted a long time ago because we're talking about newer Star Trek now. Yeah. I will say Discovery a couple of times for me has veered a little too far into the kill your gays thing. I was fucking okay. No, well, we've already spoiler alerted. So I was fucking furious when Culber died in the first season.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
I legitimately, because I mean, I was so invested in those characters, right?
Yeah.
And the way that he dies so violently and so suddenly and unexpectedly, I legitimately I lost my breath when it happened, and I had to like pause and collect myself for a minute. Yeah. And I don't know, like they say that the plan was always to bring him back. I hope that's true.
Do you worry that they're just saying that because they're like, oh shit, we did that thing and now we have to bring him back? Is that the...
Yeah, that's the worry, that they just realized that they fucked up when the fandom lost their collective minds over it, rightfully so. And they were like, oh no, we're gonna bring him back. It's gonna be good. Yeah. And I don't know, like they've said that. I hope that's true. But then like almost all of season 2 was for Culber and Stamets anyways, was dealing with the fallout of Culber having died. Right. And so it's like, again, we have this queer relationship where their interaction with each other almost exclusively on screen has to do with their trauma. And it's like, again, it's not so much kill your gays, but traumatize your gays. And then that's the only story they get. Right. And in some ways it's like, that's kind of what Discovery is, right? Discovery is a bunch of people having a lot of really big fucked up things happen to them and recovering from it. And so if they didn't have drama to deal with, that would be kind of weird too. But it would be nice if that wasn't directly related to their queerness, right? Yeah. And I felt the same way about Gray. Like we meet Gray and 5 seconds later he dies.
Yep.
And he's not really dead, but I mean, he's dead. And then he's a ghost and, now, and like, as soon as we've got him back, he moves to Trill.
Right.
Right. And so like, I don't know. And I have zero inside knowledge of this, of course, but I remember the day that they made the season 5 announcement for Star Trek Discovery, that they were able to say like, hey, we got greenlit for a 5th season. Blue Del Barrio posted a frowny face emoji for a tweet on that same day. And I hope I'm not reading too much into that they won't be on season 5.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
I'll be real fucking sad if that turns out to be the case.
Yeah. A frowny face emoji. This is what it's like to be a Star Trek fan, Kyle. Emojis are everything.
Yep.
Emojis give it all away. Maybe they just got a bad order at their local Subway.
You never know.
What else about good or bad about the queer representation?
I will say, so season 3 is where we meet Gray and Adira, and we get, for I think it's like the first 8 episodes, Adira is called she, her, and they're like not out as non-binary. When way before the season premiered, they made a big deal about like, this is going to be Star Trek's first non-binary character using they, them pronouns, played by a non-binary actor. But like for the first 8 episodes, they're calling Adira she, her. And I'm like, okay, that feels weird. you know, knowing that they're misgendering this character. But that also tells me, like, so at some point this season, there's going to be a coming out moment.
Yeah.
And how do you handle that in the future? Right. And there, you know, there's lots of discourse about, like, you know, by that time in the future, nobody would have to come out. And so it'd be weird if there's a coming out moment. But also I think sometimes we give the world of Star Trek a little too much credit for it being utopian. And it's not that unbelievable to me that transphobia of some kind follows into the 24th century and the 32nd century. Yeah. Especially after the burn, when Earth has been through this major disaster, this major cultural trauma, like, people regress in situations like that. So that's not so weird for me. But I was also
Earth has like this like sort of hardcore militaristic feeling,
exactly
dark evil empire feel to it when they first arrive, and so, yeah, I buy that it might be some regressive things that happen to them, you know, politically, socially.
Yep.
I was watching a compilation of queer and trans moments from throughout Star Trek history, and one of them seemed like a modern, I don't know if it's Discovery because I don't know them well, but it seemed like a modern day where someone corrects someone else on their pronouns and corrected from she, her to they. Was that the moment
scene.
you're talking about? How did that feel to you, seeing that?
Oh, it was incredible. I really don't understand why they had to wait 8 episodes to make it happen.
Yeah.
But the moment itself I thought was great. And I enjoyed season 3 a lot more the second time through because I knew they handled that moment well. And also I found out that Blue themselves actually had a lot of input into Adira's story arc. Because the writers like really, really wanted to get it right. And so, they did a bunch of consultation with GLAAD on their like media stuff. And then Blue themselves had a lot of input because Blue was actually cast in Discovery before they were out as non-binary to like their family. And so if I'm remembering the interviews that I've read right, like, they were actually like, okay, so like I've got to come out to my family before the news comes out that I've been cast in Star Trek because I don't want them to hear. Yeah. And so like they kind of wanted Adira's story to mirror Blue's in that way, which fully respect and like wish I had done that reading ahead of time to know that going in. But it was just, I mean, it was so perfect, right? Like it's Stamets and Adira, they're in engineering, and Stamets is kind of like bragging on Adira about how fast they do stuff. And you just see this look on their face. And it's a look that I feel like anyone who's ever had to correct someone on their pronouns, it's a look that those people all know and all recognize. And even, I mean, I feel like I was like half drunk while I was watching this. And I was just like, oh shit, this is it. This is where it's coming because I knew that look, right?
That's amazing that that's it. Wow.
Well, that's what it means to have a non-binary actor play that moment because that person knows what that feels like, right? They know what that look is like. They know what living in that moment feels like. And I was just like, shit, yeah, this is it. This is where it's coming. And it's just very quickly like I've never felt like a she or a her. I've always felt like a they. And Stamets is just like, okay. And that's the end of it. And then I feel like Stamets just like used whatever Discovery has for like Outlook or whatever and just sent an email like, hey, my kids' pronouns are they, them. I'll fucking kill you if you misgender them. Send. Because after that, like, it's just not come up. It's just been a very casual they, them.
So one of my criticisms, and I'm interested in your take here. One of my criticisms is that Anthony Rapp, at the very least, if not Stamets himself, overemphasizes they now, and it enough that I notice and it bothers me. Do you have the same reaction?
I don't exactly. And
okay,
let me ask, how caught up are you on Discovery? Have you seen the newest episode?
Have, yes.
So he gives Adira that explanation about how he's just like, listen, I know I'm just going to be too much because I'm a proud dad, and that's kind of the vibe that I've gotten from it. Is he's just like proud queer dad, just going a little overboard because that's what dads do sometimes.
Yeah,
that's my vibe with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't call that a bad take. I just don't think I fully agree with it, if that makes sense.
Sure.
That's
Yeah.
It's just that overly supportive dad vibe.
I'm projecting my own insecurities. Like I try really hard to get pronouns right, and when I fuck them up, I feel bad. And like then sometimes I find myself overemphasizing someone's pronouns when they differ from how they present traditionally, right? And then so then I see that in that actor or in that character or both, and it gives me discomfort about my own. Yeah.
I didn't have to be you just saved me. You just had the uncomfortable moment yourself with that. Yeah, you do sometimes, especially with they them pronouns, you sometimes hit those kind of hard, and that may be ensuring you get them right. But I noticed that in you, so that was interesting that you noticed that in someone else.
Yeah.
And it's actually taken me some time to where, like, anytime Adira's in an episode, I have to kind of like brace myself, because still hearing someone referred to casually as they them in Star Trek is such a fucking big deal to me.
Yeah, for sure.
Every single time it happens, I want to start crying. And it's literally like just at this point of season 4 now, where like next week is the last episode of season 4, where it's like I don't want to like lose my shit every single time it happens.
Yeah.
Okay, to bring it back to me, have you seen or watched any of And Just Like That?
No.
The Sex and the City reboot?
Oh no, I've never really been a fan, and the few people that I know that do don't have very nice things to say about the reboot.
Anything specifically about I have opinions about the non-binary representation, but like not being non-binary, like very much recognize my like I guess even on news outlets that report on it. I don't know, have you heard things about non-binary representation?
No,
specifically?
the friends I've had, they've just said that they hate it and thought it was ridiculous. I don't think I don't remember reading any like specific things about like why or anything.
I know on them.us they talked about like, and just like that, we got mediocre non-binary representation was kind of their headline of that, which is like,
and obviously like I can't speak to that because I've not seen the show and I've not really seen that discourse, so I can't opine specifically on that. But I think a lot of times what gets critiqued as bad representation is more a commentary on lack of representation, because there is obviously like there's no one character that's going to represent the entirety of the queer trans experience, right? And the problem is that we have so few trans characters and so few, and I mean I think we're doing better on both sides of the equation, but we're just so far behind on both that any representation we get feels like bad representation or insufficient representation, because it's like, okay, well, there's like one version of queerness, but there's like 15 other versions of queerness that I don't see in this person. And I think that can sometimes lead us to putting unfair expectations on one character to be all things queer or all things trans, right? And so I think there's a level of, it's fair to critique that, but I don't think it's fair to say that like that's bad representation for that, right? And I'm not one to tell people to like be patient, right? Because fuck that. It's been long enough. There's no excuse for us to not exist in the ways that we still don't exist in media. Because there's even, what about trans men, right? Like we see sort of like femme leaning non-binary people pretty often in the non-binary representation that exists usually centers that kind of presentation and that kind of experience, or trans women, of course, and very specifically usually white trans women, very cis-normative white trans women. And like, I don't want to say that shouldn't exist, right? Because those people exist and their experiences are valid, but it just seems like those are the only kinds of people that a large swath of the media are willing to lift up and put forward. Yeah. But we only usually see like skinny, stereotypically attractive white people in TV show en masse, right? And so like, is that really a queer trans problem, or is that more of
mass media
structural racism or structural fat phobia problem? And it's it's of course it's all of those things at the same time, right?
That's interesting, because I think about this with the kill your gays, like that concept to me. There's part of it of like, I'm okay if a movie has a gay character that commits suicide, but it's the fact that those are that's the only kind of thing, or that it's shown so often. I'm not upset that gays are dying in movies. I'm upset that that's the majority of the representation. If we had 1 in every 100 like straight people do, or whatever, then like that media in and on itself is not the problem. And I think you're speaking, I was thinking very narrowly about that one specific trope, and you're helping me kind of broaden that to just how do I view media representation in general, and not putting too much pressure on one thing to be everything, which I like that.
Yeah,
approach.
It's big and complicated, but I mean, also I think you can tell if people are making a genuine effort, right? Like, I feel like, you know, on Discovery and in the Star Trek franchise more broadly, like the people who are running things now, I think really are interested in telling more broad stories of queerness and transness, right? I mean, we even have, you know, again, spoiler alert, you know, at the end of the last season of Lower Decks, we have the enemies to lovers trope happening with the Jennifer Mariner, right? Which is fantastic. Like, I've been rooting for that all fucking year, and it was so great that it happened. And it was very cool for that to feel normal. It's like, we hate each other, but I'm kind of been a dick to you because I have a crush on you, and maybe we want a date. And it's like, oh, like we get to do that sort of like messy TV trope, but with queer people now. That's wonderful.
Yeah. What else haven't we talked about queer Star Trek that we need to mention?
I mean, I feel very, very strongly that we need to just, if nothing else, give a quick shout out to the gay horny space whales from Lower Decks.
Great. Yes.
Matt and Kiwi from Cetacean Ops. Yeah.
I'm really excited that this is in the thing that you said I should watch, because this is adding up that maybe I'm very curious about them.
Okay. So way back in the day, Next Generation era, there was a technical manual that was printed and came out that was like the schematics of the Enterprise. And in one of the maps, it says Cetacean Ops. And everybody's like, well, what the fuck is that? And that started this whole fandom thing of like, there are dolphins on the Enterprise that are like crew members. Like now humans and dolphins kick it with each other, or other. It's not dolphins, it's whales, cetaceans, right?
Well, yeah, but there are dolphins.
You're saying the word cetacean like that's a word I should know just in English. Is that an English word?
It's for whales.
Okay, cool.
Anyway, so, but now, like, that's expensive. You can't do that on a syndicated television show. You can't, but you sure can.
Did you see Sequest DSV? Come on. They had no excuse.
That's true. That's true.
They had Darwin the dolphin.
That's true. Yeah, with that horrible
and
voice.
There are two references on screen in Next Generation to Cetacean Ops. One, in yesterday's Enterprise, you hear someone being called to Cetacean Ops when Tasha Yar and Lieutenant Castillo are in 10 Forward talking. You hear someone over the intercom being called to Cetacean Ops.
Nice.
And you can hear very clearly they're saying Cetacean Ops, but for some reason in the captions it says Station Ops. That's silly. That's not what that person said. But also in the episode where... oh God, what's it called? I forget what it's called, but the episode that Famke Jensen, I think, is in, the supermodel, she's in stasis and they're like delivering her for this arranged marriage thing. And the Ferengi are trying to steal her. And the Ferengi like go after this ambassador person, trying to convince him to give them this person. And Geordi like grabs one of the Ferengi and does the like wingman thing of like, oh, I'm going to redirect you and get you away. And as the sound is fading out, you can hear him say, oh, have you seen the dolphins? You can hear it very clear, like as the sound is fading out. And so there's on-screen references and the technical manual. And so Cetacean Ops has been a long running thing. And they reference it a couple of times in Lower Decks. And then we see it and we meet Matt and Kamalu, the two beluga whales who are the Cetacean Ops crew members on Lower Decks. And they're very, very gay and very, very horny.
This is hilarious.
It's
I'm really
the best thing.
excited
I
about this.
screamed when I realized that's what we were doing. I screamed. I scared the shit out of my dog, and I could see because I'm watching most of it with friends over Zoom, and so like I've got it up on my TV and then my laptop in front of me with Zoom, and I start screaming, and then I can see my friends notice like, what the fuck are they doing? Yeah, completely lost it.
Where better to end our conversation than gay, horny whale ops?
Yep.
Yep.
I agree. I mean, there's so much more to talk about, of course. But...
We could talk about a little bit more in our Patreon segment.
Okay.
I have some tweets, and I'm going to read you about my favorite moment or favorite tweets, and get your reaction on that.
Okay, cool.
Ooh,
Callie, do you have time for that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. So should we take a break?
Yeah, let's take a break.
Let's take a break.
Break.
This is the part where Mike and Kyle take a break.
You can start.
Oh, so are we back?
We're back.
We're back.
We are going to do our... Thank you. We are going to do our Gayest and Straightest.
We're going to do our Gayest and Straightest. But first, Callie, where can people find out more about you, what you're up to? Tell us all the things.
Yes, I am at Callie Gets It on Twitter. CallieGetsit. Callie Gets It on Twitter. My podcast is called Queersplaining, and you can, of course, listen to it on all of the podcast platforms in all of the places. And I also have a Patreon. It's part of how I pay my bills. So if you like cool queer content, it's a queer storytelling show. Not really anything more specific than that, but I just find cool queer and trans people to tell their stories and try to give them a platform to do that with a sympathetic audience, as opposed to like mainstream media that likes to sensationalize and only tell one kind of queer and trans story, not for queer or trans audiences. So yeah, I try to not be the thing that annoys most of us about queer and trans stories in the mainstream media.
Well, awesome. Yeah, be sure to check it out. Our website is gayishpodcast.com.
We are on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook at Gayish Podcast.
Our hotline, you can send us text messages or leave us voicemails, is 5855-GAYISH. That's 585-542-9474. Standard rate supply.
Our email is gayishpodcast@gmail.com.
And our physical mailing address is Post Office Box 19882, Seattle, Washington, 98109. We got some stuff to open. We'll do it next week because...
To open shit. Okay. But I want it now, Mike.
Oh.
We can...
All right.
We can open it after this.
All right.
I hope it wasn't like a fish or something.
Oh, no.
Okay.
A puppy. Somebody said it's a puppy, Kyle.
No. Just parts of a puppy.
I mentioned all of our tour dates at the top of the show, but just one more time real quick. We'll be at the Tree Fort Music Festival in Boise, Idaho on Saturday, March the 26th at 4 p.m. Mountain Time. We'll be in Portland, Oregon at the Hop Capital Brewery April 3rd. That's Sunday, April 3rd at 1 p.m. Pacific. And we will be at the Hula Hula in Seattle, Washington, Sunday, April the 10th at 2 p.m. Pacific.
Gayishpodcast.com/live.
Great. Gayest and Straightest. I'll go first.
Okay.
The straightest,
Do it.
The straightest thing about me this week, we were headed to Hop Capital Brewery this morning to make some beer for the birthday beer, anniversary beer, and we went to Starbucks, and I got the sausage and cheddar breakfast sandwich, which I think that's the only thing that straight dudes are allowed to eat off the Starbucks menu.
Yeah, because mine was like fucking Gouda, or something that's like I'm fancy cheese.
Yeah. Like it's just the most like butch breakfast option at Starbucks.
Yeah.
The gayest thing about me this week, I don't know if you saw, Kyle, but I was wearing a scarf.
I did see you wearing a scarf.
Fantastic.
Yeah. It had colors.
Had my scarf on the whole day. How about you? Go for it.
I thought you were going to use making beer as.
I thought that's where he was going to.
I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna save this one for next time because it's still gonna be gay and straight next week.
Okay, great.
My straightest is making beer.
Sure.
But
making beer is like every straight guy's fantasy. Like,
and the gayest part is of course it is a mango kiwi blonde because they were like, we got to make something we got to make something that Kyle might like, and of course still like being the one there that everyone's like, oh look, it's hops, as if I'm supposed to like that. Hops are bad and they smell bad, and I don't want to put this into this liquid and make it worse. I just that's fine. Callie, what about you?
Okay, so the straightest thing that I've done in recent memory, I'll just cop to the fact that it wasn't this week, but the straightest thing that I have done like lately was paying attention to the Super Bowl. Because I live in Cincinnati and the Cincinnati Bengals were in the Super Bowl, and even though I can kind of appreciate the game of football, I don't really care that much about the NFL, but like my city was in the Super Bowl, so it was fucking inescapable. And basically the entire city of Cincinnati shut down. Like restaurants shut down, gas stations closed, all that sort of stuff. It was like a whole thing. And so even though I wasn't watching it, I was actually watching Star Trek while it was on. But I would like, I would kind of I was like, oh, okay. I mean, I do kind of wonder if they're winning. Yeah. So I'd pull out my phone, just like look at the score. And apparently they were winning until like the very last minute and lost, which I don't know. I mean, I'm sad for my friends that care about it. Because I like it when my friends are happy about stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
God, when I was in college, I hated going to the football games. I went to school in Texas, but I hated going to the games. I only cared if my team won because my friends would come home happy and we'd have fun and drink and stuff.
Yeah.
And when they lost, they'd be sad, and I would rather have my friends happy.
They would still drink though, right?
Yeah, but there'd be like sad drinking, and like then we just go to sleep at like it was
And gayest thing I've done, and this was actually just a couple of days ago, was sitting at a table with a group of my roller derby teammates and telling them completely uncensored stories of all of my sexual escapades of the last few months. Because the other gayest thing about me lately is that I am living out my best slutty life in my mid to late 30s as opposed to my early 20s.
Excellent.
Do you have any slutty details that you're willing to drop on us now?
I had my first threesome at... Okay, I won't give personally identifiable details. I had my first threesome, and the other two people involved, one of them was a guy who was doing Captain Kirk cosplay. And the girl who was in it was fully made up as a Klingon.
Excellent.
And I may not have said vulgar things in Klingon while things were happening.
Excellent.
This is
excellent. I'm so glad you drilled into this question.
Yes, we're cutting the full episode and just playing this portion on maybe on repeat for like. Yep. Wait, can you say some of the dirty things in Klingon? What are dirty things?
So a fun one that you might be able to say that I sometimes use is chop, and that is a command saying "hit me."
Oh shit! Definitely need to write this down.
Yeah, well, what's Klingon for choke me? That's one Kyle really wants.
That's true.
Oh, I don't know the word for choke off the top of my head. I know there is one, but it's not coming to mind for me.
No worries.
I'll just have to say it in English.
So yeah, that and also like later that same night ended up hooking up with someone else in an abandoned bar in a casino.
Nice.
Wow. Yeah. This needs to be our next episode.
I'm so proud of you.
See, the problem is like I'm a super open book and I'll talk about this kind of stuff with anyone, but I don't know how discreet the other people want to be. And so I don't want to like violate their boundaries or anything.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is usually I don't know first names, so I don't have any like, I can't violate any of their personal identifiable information. Like they had a cute torso on Scruff. I don't know what you want me to say. Yeah. Those are perfect. Thank you.
Yes,
of course.
Thank you. Callie, thank you so much for being on and nerding out with me. I really appreciate it. I think Kyle even enjoyed it, which that takes some doing.
Yeah, I mean, I was like in and out. There were some moments where I was in and out, and you know, that's par for the course, though.
Yeah, it's fine. I think you did a great job, and yeah, it's great.
I would also like to thank our super gap bridges: Josh Copeland, Forrest Nail, Patrick Martin, Anonymous, James Barrow, Explosive Lasagna, Christopher Farrell, Jamie Pugh, Kevin Henderson, Tipsy McStumbles, Donald Linsky, Thomas B, Dusty Sands, A.E. Coleman, Chris Catch, Dorian Jerome, York, Cian, and Javi. Thank you all. We appreciate you. We appreciate your money, your patronage, your Patreonage. And yeah, check out Queersplaining.
Yeah, that's it. This has been Gayish from the Chris Cacciatorian Studios. I'm Mike Johnson.
I'm Kyle Getz. Until next week, be butch, be fabulous, be you. See you next week.
See you next week.
Klingon, bye.
Kaplach.
Fuck, boys. I'm surprised we're not taking a break right now. Letterkenny fans, anybody?